Let's call the meeting to order.
Recording in progress.
And do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, public speak. Do we have anyone here for public speak?
Yes, I had a question, if I might.
Certainly.
In the June referendum, we had these advisory questions. And one of the questions was concerned with splitting the Andover elementary school budget and the town budget to be voted on each independently. And I was wondering if, based on the results of that question, we should expect that to happen next time around.
I do not know the answer to that question because that would be Board of Selectmen would have to weigh in. And is that a charter change, Eric? I don't know.
That does require a charter change,
Okay.
Ed. So
Okay.
the Board of Selectmen asked that question because they're anticipating another charter advisory commission to be seated sometime soon. And they wanted that information to give them some direction.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Jed. Nobody else public speak? I don't see anybody. All right, let's move. Do we have any additions or deletions that we want to add to the agenda? Kitty. Does anybody have anything? I have nothing. No?
I'll say.
I mean, the only thing, I apologize, guys. I was online at work until about an hour ago, and then I needed to get dinner. But do we have anything on there for CIP liaison?
For CIP?
Yeah.
Well, we have item 10 liaison reports.
There, that we'll address it then. That works. That's fine.
That works? Okay. All right, thanks, Rob. Anything else?
Diane,
Diane?
go ahead.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Am I allowed to comment on the public speak issue?
Yeah, if you have a question, yeah. I mean, I
I just
can't.
want to say one thing. I just think it would totally complicate our town even worse. I think that somehow we all have to, I understand the theory, but I'm hoping that last year's situation and things going forward, maybe preparing ahead of time, just might do better and try to come together as a town to, I just feel like it's gonna be, okay, we got a 1% over here, we got a 4%, I don't know. It might complicate it, but it's for we've got a long time. Thank you.
Eric?
Diane, can I suggest that you put under new business, affordable housing plan?
Okay, that'd be 8H,
Yep.
affordable housing. Yeah, okay, can I have a motion for that? Anybody?
I'll move to add item 8H, affordable housing plan, to the agenda.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kurt seconds. Any discussion? Nope. Good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Okay, added. All right, anything else, guys? You want to add or delete? We good?
I'm good.
Okay. Town administrators report.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Certainly.
Amanda, I need the power. Okay. hopefully we're all looking at a shared screen, which says Administrators Report, except it should say Board of Finance, not Board of Selectmen, sorry. Okay, so things that are relevant to the Board of Finance. The first is the Assessor's Office is on track to finalize the reval in October, which will probably fairly dramatically affect the grand list. Which doesn't increase the amount of money we get, it just means the overall grand list will be higher. So the other thing I wanted to make you guys aware of is that Matea, who was the person who had taken the combined position, well, was made to take the combined position of the assistant town clerk and the building admin, has resigned and taken another municipal job with Coventry. So the Board of Selectmen at their last meeting made a decision to split those positions back again because of all the problems we had had with that office. So we're advertising for them both separately, and we will go from there. Permit Link is live.
Question, before you move on for that. So that has a financial impact to the budget because we have a position that we didn't budget for, correct?
That's correct. And well, it's got two implications. The first is Matea was taking a partial payment in lieu of healthcare. And since these are both union positions, it is unlikely that we're not going to end up with a significant change in the amount of benefits associated with these positions.
Okay.
So that's where it becomes a Board of Finance issue. Not a
Eric,
whole
are we back to the same hours previous to combining it for each position?
No, the board is trying to run the building department right at 20 hours. So, which is 14 hours less than it was previously. So,
And then set hours so that the town people will know, right? I mean, maybe you had that with the combined position too.
I mean,
but,
we did,
yeah.
but it's been ugly. And frankly, I would not be at all surprised if Bolton refuses to sign another contract to provide building official services, because they're obviously really unhappy with us.
Why? Is it only working in an office? Is it the amount of work is so huge that one person just can't do it in those amount of hours?
There's a fair amount of work to that office. The other real problem is that, when you have a combined building and land use office,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone is part-time, the building official part-time, the zoning officials part-time, wetlands part-time, fire marshal is a few hours a week. When all those people are barely there, the admin provides the gatekeeper that's always there to answer questions. And now when you say roughly half the time the building is open, there's nobody there to answer questions. Two things happen. One, people get frustrated and they call the Bolton Land Use Office directly because they know our building official, is and their admin is quite unhappy to spend lots of time dealing with Andover's problems, which makes everybody in Bolton unhappy. Or they call the building official for questions that really should be addressed by the admin, and the building official shouldn't directly be engaged. And when you only are contracting for 5 hours a week of building official services, that becomes kind of problematic in and of itself. So
as a good administrative assistant in a department, I would have a folder with listed questions for those 5 hours that you can. You got a doc. I'm not saying it's a perfect world. I totally hear what you're saying. I have to deal in my own capacity with people that I might see an hour a week. I have that folder. I've got it ready. But I know what you're saying, that the people want the questions. So if Matea or the person was working 20 hours and had all those things lined up. And then you go week to week, or maybe the building official or whoever has how many hours dedicated to Andover from Bolton?
5.
I know that's not a heck of a lot of time to do. I love real estate, so it's not a lot of time to do permits and checking and, you know, what. So I imagine a lot of the work is doing that stuff, site work too. Yeah, I would just hope that, I get that it's not easy, but maybe a little organization and having the questions all ready for it, so that at least week to week, the most time someone would have to wait for an answer is a week. I don't know if that's reasonable, or is that crazy too in the building world?
Well, I mean, there's so many variations on questions, you know, that I think it's unreasonable to expect somebody else to cover that position and be able to understand, you know, what most of the questions are. And frankly, you know, it's pretty obvious that whoever takes that position, it's going to take them a long time to get up to speed, because there's an enormous amount to know.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, like someone like me, I'm just saying, I get that she can't answer, or, you know, the person can't answer it. Just have those questions ready for when the skilled person comes in. You know, you could just go through them, get the answers, get back to the person. I'm not saying that's how I organize my time. I have like a staff of 150 that come at me, and let me tell you, teachers with COVID and extra pay for this or this, you just have to really get your questions ready, get the official that's going to answer them, and then get back to the people all week. So that's my world right now with COVID. But that's just a thought. Thank you. I don't want to stall us.
Yeah,
And then how many hours will the assistant town clerk be?
probably 26 again.
And didn't you already bargain a position in the union to combine it? So now it has to be split apart again, or no?
Well, number one, we never originally, you know, the union never agreed to it. So we never did formalize that. We formalized what a combined position would make in terms of hourly wage, but they have never agreed to combine that. We just did it because frankly, they weren't, you know, playing ball with us, period. So, you know, we're kind of back to where we were, other than we're advertising this as a 20-hour-a-week position instead of a 30 or 34-hour-a-week position.
Eric,
Yep.
have you run all this past or through the Board of Selectmen? Because I think that's an issue that they need to deal with.
So I gave the Board of Selectmen a series of options, and Sherry gave them the cost basis for what those options would be and what the costs would be for the town.
And what came out of that?
Exactly what I told you. Their decision was to have me split the position, go back to a standalone position for the town clerk and a separate one for the building department.
Great.
And
Okay.
benefits for that, is there, I forget when you earn benefits, you know, with the whole, the retirement and all that. Is it 25 now? Did you up that?
Nope, those positions both will have benefits.
So on top of the salary, it'll be what's the name? I'm sorry, I've had a long day. What's the name of the retirement program the town has again? I talked to it last week. I just can't think of it.
The town is in Murph.
Gotcha. So the 14 or 15% that the town on each of those on top of, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I mean, one of the issues we've had is as we've cut all this stuff, you know, nobody stays anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we're on our third, you know, or second admin. You know, both admins have left within a year's time frame. You know, after the one before that, who had a little better package, stayed for 20-something years and is now back working as for the town, temporarily filling in. We haven't been able to keep
Right.
assistant town clerks either, because frankly, everybody else pays them a lot better. So they work for us for a short period of time, gain a little experience at both. And that's exactly what Matea did.
It's life situations too. You're gonna get a lot of, I cut my hours in half when I was a young mom and had 3 kids at home. That was my priority. It depends. It could be great for someone, but I get you. You're not gonna get people that are gonna join on and stay forever. It's just people's life circumstances, that's all.
Yep, understood.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we are doing tree work. Right now, we're doing quite a bit of tree work over on the northern half of the town. We were fortunate that we were able to make a deal with Eversource, with the utility company. And they basically agreed to allow us to cut on both sides of the road. And they're paying for half the cost of all the tree trimming and removal. So that's allowed us to stretch our dollars a lot more. That's been kind of a long running thing I've been trying to get. And it seems like we finally got to the right people at Eversource who are willing to consider some things like this. So that's been going fairly well. As you know, we put aside money in the tree work permanent fund. This particular iteration of tree work, we're going to expend somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000. And the utility company will put in that, or maybe even a little bit more than that. So that's been going fairly well.
We only put 50,000 in there for this fiscal year.
Correct. We have to leave some for emergency stuff.
Right.
So there's no real report on snow plowing at this point, but we did have an issue with our contract for salt. So Connecticut is going to have a real problem with salt this year, because one of the main distribution points was in New London, where they were able to barge the salt in. And New London has closed that facility and turned it over to an offshore wind conglomerate. So salt is either coming in from, now New Haven or south of New Haven or somewhere in Rhode Island. So there's a lot less supply available. And one company has basically bought out all the distribution kind of in the Northeast. We did sign a contract very early that contract specified that if the CROG bid came in lower than what we had locked in at, they would honor the CROG bid. Unfortunately, they were one of the companies that were bought out. The company that bought them out apparently bought their salt stockpile and didn't really buy anything else from them. So they have told us they will not honor it. We have been able to get back in on the state bid for salt. So it looks like we're going to be okay, probably, but this is going to be a real issue going forward in years. The good news is we have a really good stockpile of salt. So, we may be able to get away with only purchasing, say, 300 tons this year, if we start having supply issues. Not ideal, but, that is life. So as you all know, we sent out and got back the RFPs for the community center. The committee approved hiring the BSC group for the excavation and site work for $23,000, and Moser, Pylon, Nelson Architects for the architectural part $6,000. So I sent the details to the town's attorney and asked him to write up a contract. He got a contract back to me this morning for the excavation site work. And he basically said the architectural bid was a low enough dollar amount. He said, just sign the bid document they gave you and you'll be fine. So presuming the Board of Finance has no objection, my plan was to sign that tomorrow and get both of those off and running.
So let me ask that question. Because you sent me that lovely purchasing policy. If it's, so we don't need a formal contract if it's between 5 and 15,000. Okay, that's how I'm reading that.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect.
Eric, before we go any further on the salt budget thing,
Yep.
my question would be, all right, so we signed a contract with somebody for kind of a price protection contract. They get bought out and now won't honor the contract.
Well,
What sort of dollar amount are we talking about here? Because I'm just thinking whether there's any purpose here in trying to enforce something. If it's a small amount of money, it's not worth pursuing them.
you know, who knows where salt prices are going to end up. At this point, it seems like we're going to be, they will accept us under the state bid contract. So we're going to be paying roughly what we paid, we would have paid had we had a standalone contract, maybe a tiny little bit more, but not enough to worry about.
Okay.
You know, what the company, the original agreement was to lock us in at about 70, I think $75 a ton. And the company that bought them, they didn't actually buy them out, according to them. All they did, the only thing they agreed to do was buy their salt stockpile. But since they can essentially prevent the other company from importing salt because they now no longer have a way to do it because they control all the importation, they essentially took over their client, or they took over their stuff because the other company has no way to get product.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this, but that doesn't necessarily relieve the seller of its contract. You know, if it's a straight asset purchase and they only purchase the stockpiles, I get that. But then the company that made the agreement with us still exists, still has assets or whatever. That doesn't necessarily just mean they get to walk away and stiff us. Now, if it's a small amount of money, it doesn't make any sense to pursue them. I understand that, but I'm a little, I don't want to just hand wave this away, because typically when you have, like, this apparently what you're telling me is that this isn't a corporate successorship issue where they actually completely bought out the other company. The other company still exists, right? It's still a going concern.
No, they're done. I mean,
So
they have no product.
yeah, okay. So they sold,
Hang on.
yeah, somehow they sold their assets, but not their liabilities. Yeah, I'm not sure that flies, but okay. That bothers me. Sorry, this is the insurance guy in me. I don't love that, but if it's not a huge amount of money and it's not worth pursuing, fine. I just, it doesn't strike me as the right answer, but okay.
Well, and Rob, you know this, and you know, because contracts are contracts, but if the company was acquired, then they would have to, you know, most contracts aren't assignable, so they're not going to go, you know, so the thing is, we don't know what the legal statuses of the company is.
Right. And whether they're actually dissolved or what have you.
Right. I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm bringing up. Now, I deal with corporate successorship issues in a very different context. And this is exactly the sort of thing that we get stuck on a fair bit in my job. You know, who actually has the rights and who actually has the responsibilities. But this is a massive rabbit hole, and I don't want to go down it any further. So let's move on.
Yeah, I'm happy to give you the information if you want to sue them.
Yeah, I am not legal counsel, so let's just, don't listen to me. I just bugged me and it struck me as the wrong answer, but hey, again, let's move on.
Sure, okay. So I'm not going over everything on here, just so that you know, in the interest of time. So we got our essentially full approval for the steep grant that will cover the cost, half the cost of reclaiming a couple of roads. We're not going to get to it this year because we're way too far behind on drainage work, and we got to complete the drainage work on Shoddy Mill before we do it, because we have to do both roads at once. But the good news is at least they finally fully approved the funding for the steep grant. So we know the money's there when we get around to doing it. The connectivity grant, we finally got the official notice to proceed from Department of Transportation, project authorization list, and they wrote us a check for $297,000. So we have the money. I'm still bugging the construction company as to when the actual start date is. But it sounds like it's going to be fairly soon. They're trying to wrap up other projects right now before they started on it. So hopefully we'll get the significant portion of that completed this fall.
Remind me, Eric, what's included in that connectivity? What is what's the work they're going to be doing? Is it
Okay.
sidewalks?
Say again?
Is it sidewalks?
It's a series of connected things.
Okay.
So the idea was we got the DOT separately to install a new crosswalk across Long Hill Road at Route 6. And then we're tying it in with sidewalks running down to the bridge towards the ball field, and then improving the other side connecting to the rail trail, making a new trailhead there, installing a kiosk, new stairs at the library, new handicapped accessible ramp and railing at the library, connection to the Andover church there. So it's basically, the goal is to make an easy pedestrian and cycling connection now between, the north side and the south side at Long Hill, between the ball field and the rail trail and other town assets.
I would love them to have a flashing stop ahead sign when you're coming up to Long Hill there, because that corner is just, when the light changes, you don't see it.
Well, we did at least get the DOT to do a lot of cutting there.
Yeah.
So they did push the brush back a lot. And the light is still screwed up there, which is not good, because the new crossing and the new traffic lights are keyed on cameras, not on underground sensors, underground magnetic sensors, which is kind of the way they're all going to. But the company that's got that project is a little over a year behind. I mean, this was supposed to be completed it was supposed to be done by October 1 of last year. And they still haven't finished the bloody thing. So that's a little annoying. But that's the state's problem more than it is our problem, because that's not part of our grant. That was another project we got the state to do for us.
Okay.
So as far as townwide monitoring, as most of you know, we had to switch from monitoring by our Tolland Dispatch Center to our own standalone company. Not our own company, but a commercial company. So we did that. We made a decision who we went with. That transition took place by July 1. And then we've been going around and getting all the buildings inspected and then brought back up to code. There were a number of problems identified. The worst ones were in Public Works, which we already knew. And then also the town hall had a bunch of things that were pretty bad. Like all the heat sensors in the furnace room and in the attic here were never wired correctly, so they never worked. You know, they all failed the initial test. They just didn't go off. And then when they went back and traced it, they determined the sensor itself was okay, but they were incorrectly wired. So the town hall is not that an expensive a set of fix. And I already cleared that work with the fire marshal to make sure he was okay with, you know, what they were doing there. And then Public Works, that's going to be about $8,500 or $8,800, but it's less than the Board of Selectmen and you as the Board of Finance agreed to when you signed off on the whole proposal back in July. So they were originally saying if they had to replace everything, you know, it was going to be in the $12,000 to $14,000 range. And so what we decided on doing was just inspect everything first, and then let's bring it up to code and let's replace just what's physically failing or not code compliant. So that's basically what we're doing. Next thing up, we talked a number of times with the Board of Finance about the affordable housing grant. We did get an affordable housing grant from the state HUD or some other entity of the state. And we did an RFP for that. We got 3 bids back for it. And the Planning and Zoning Commission accepted the bid from Bill Warner as the lowest cost acceptable bid. And I think the reason Bill was able to provide this at a lower cost was because A, he wrote our last plan of conservation and development, you know, and B, he won the bid for the last affordable housing grant that we got about 10 years ago. So he was basically starting with a significant fraction of the data. So I'm informing you this. My intention is just to announce the bid acceptance and, you know, write a contract with Mr. Warner unless you all as a board have an issue with it or want to discuss it in some form or another.
I don't have an issue. Anybody have any issue?
No issue, and it's been talked about for a number of meetings, so
Yeah.
I'm in agreement. Yep.
Okay, so I think I've already told you this, or Sherry already told you this, but we did get our first tranche of the American Recovery Act funding for $478,000, of which you've agreed to spend around $1,200 by writing a check to the health district. But other than that, so you have basically $477,000 of that still in the kitty. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about that's you're going to see coming up is that we had the board had already asked me to instead of directly doing the electrical work that we needed in the town hall, to send that to RFP. As soon as I prepared the RFP, that set off a little bit of an argument within the Board of Selectmen about scope of work. Partly because there's a fairly significant code violation in our mechanical room, and that when they did the addition for the community room, they ran the fill lines for the new oil tank directly over the electrical panel, which is clearly a code violation. I'm not saying because what we were going to add to the system would have not been directly under it. We probably could have done it, but the Board of Selectmen did not feel comfortable, you know, continuing something that was that bad a code violation. The problem is that led to mission creep, and if we replace that, then really there's a couple other things we really ought to do at the same time, because if we're redoing all the piping, the only way we can redo the piping is to go through an existing window area that was already turned into a vent. So we're going to have to block that off and there's going to be a number of other things. So it's gone from a simple project to a complicated, more complicated project that's going to result in us replacing our oil storage tank, our fill pipes, doing a little work on the HVAC, which we know we've needed to do, and some masonry. So the board has also asked me to apply for LoCIP funds to pay for that upgrades. And we have plenty of money available in our LoCIP account. So we should be able to pay for that strictly with the LoCIP funds and not touch the building maintenance funds to do that. Makes it a lot more complicated project with a lot more moving parts, but and it's going to push the time we do it out a little bit. But that's kind of the plan at this point. Do any of you have any questions, about what we're doing or why?
Oh, I listened to that meeting, so it was a lively meeting.
They usually are.
Also, Eric, you ran that through capital improvements last Thursday. And personally, I think the amount of the cost for the entire project is not really crazy or out of the ordinary. And as I think we all stated, the town needs to meet code with that upgrade. You might as well complete the upgrade while we're doing it. So you got to see some hard facts and figures. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on providing. Okay, so that's everything I have, other than I do have the stuff, and we can go into it. I'll unshare my screen and then share it again when we get to the discussion for CIP, the excavator, and the other stuff. And that's it for me, unless you have other questions for me.
Anybody have any other questions for Eric before we go over to Sherry? No? Okay, Sherry, you're up.
Okay, good evening. In your packets, you have several reports. I submitted to you the town budget summary from last fiscal year, 2021, and the revenue summary from last fiscal year as well, and the TAR spending account in detail. That's where we are at with all three of those reports. I expect that the budget summary report will reflect 2 more adjustments. We have 2 things to pay before September 30th, and then that should be officially closed out at that time. I'm also working on reconciling the town with the Board of Ed, and I'm coming up with a final total as far as the PO encumbrances that we still need to do and pay out. So I'm working on that, and there's some adjustments to that, but it's not going to be earth-shattering. It should be fine. And the other thing is the second set of reports, well, actually 1 set of report, is your new report for the software system that we put into place. I am working with the programmer. There's a final column on that report that should be there called percentage used, and it's not there because it places a whole dollar amount in there and not a percentage amount like I want them to have. So they're working with the programmer on that, and a couple of the reporting format issues I want changed, and hopefully I'll have them rectified by the next month, and I can give you a full report the way it looks like, but pretty much the way you see it now is what it's going to be like. I think it's user-friendly. I added all the accounts that you requested departmental-wise for the benefits. So we have those in place. And what I'm adding now is the revenue accounts. And also I'm setting up other fund accounts in.
I have a couple questions. So let's go to the last fiscal year end report in there. So right now that report was run, I think, in the middle of July, third week of July, and it shows that there's a $600,000 surplus. So there still are things that have to be
Paid.
paid and everything on that.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And there's a total amount. I'm trying to get the encumbrances down for the Board of Ed. We're receiving invoices right now. I want to process them
okay.
so that what I end up is a total purchase orders that are left to pay. In other words, we're waiting for more invoices to come in. Things are back ordered. There's certain things that are discontinued. So I'm trying to get a final number for that to book as far as the Board of Ed.
Jerry, yep.
Then we'll have a final figure.
Okay. So last fiscal year, when do you think we're going to have basically put that to bed, kind of done as an accurate final report?
I'm working on to have it finished by September 30th, which is next week.
Okay, so next meeting.
So
Okay.
next meeting that you have should be the final report.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Diane, can I ask her one question to
Go ahead.
piggyback here? Just
Yep.
your question. So Sherry, that's unusual with these invoices that are still outstanding. When were those things ordered?
They were
Because I know-
ordered prior to June 30th. They were
Okay,
ordered in May.
Yeah.
A lot of the companies, because of COVID, don't have a full operational staff back in the building. So there have been a lot of things that have been discontinued or back ordered. To give you a very simple example, we received a kidney table, what is called a kidney table the other
oh, I
day,
know, yeah, yeah.
and 4 legs are missing. No legs, okay? So we just called the company to kind of rectify that. They apologize because they're using a third-party shipping company, and apparently they forgot them on the truck. So I'm still trying to get that issue rectified, hopefully by the end of this week. And then we can put that one to bed. But that's just a very small example of what kind of things that we're dealing
I
with.
face this as well. So I just want to make sure, were these things that were ordered in May, things that were previously budgeted and
Mhm.
not just, extra money left over to be spent because it was in the right category and then ordered
They
that
were
late in the
ordered-
year?
They were ordered in the right category.
Oh, no,
And
I'm sure that, I just mean it was budgeted at the beginning of
Yes.
the year. And it wasn't, we had money left in this account, let's spend it.
Absolutely. It was budgeted earlier.
Okay,
There wasn't a lot of spending going on because we were, taking a look at all the numbers and making sure that we were
right.
well within our budget. So these were items that were scheduled to be ordered in the spring. And they were in fact ordered, and we started receiving all the invoices. Unfortunately, it's a lot slower than I would like to see happen. So,
Oh, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't extra spending and it was already planned spending.
no, it was already planned.
Thank you.
Definitely. You're welcome.
Now I have a bunch of questions on the new reporting. Okay, so and I just want to make
This is
sure
a-
I'm
This,
understanding this.
so it's a preliminary reporting. So I'm still working on it till a final draft.
So
Okay.
when I look at this, I see that there's a date at the top corner, September 3rd, 2021. It looks like that's the date it was run. But it
Mhm,
says the current period is 9/1/21 to 9/30/21.
mhm.
So why doesn't this go back to July? Is my first question. July 1.
Current period, you're reporting on the current period, which is September
But we
1st.
haven't closed the month, so
Sorry.
to me, we should.
Right, but you have current, if you look on the column, it says expenditure current. That gives all the current amounts for September. And then your year-to-date expended is your cumulative. So this report has July, August, and September in it.
Okay. So
It
that's
keeps
kind of that part
calculating
is kind of like, yeah,
as
this
we
is-
move along. But what you put in is your September, because you're reporting on the month of September and the activity that happened in the current column expended. But it keeps adding total cumulative for the months that you have. Now, next month, there'll be October. You'll see expenditure current column with all the October
So the
activity.
extended current should be the current month we're in. is what
Yes.
you're saying. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
And year to date will include everything since the beginning. I guess.
It includes July, August, and September, obviously. So it's
So
a
now-
year-to-date total.
I see that the employee benefit things accounts have been moved into the department areas, and there's an adopted budget amount, but there's no expended year to date or expended current amount for those. So,
Yeah, we just received our bills. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield was late in getting the billing out, and we just received all the bills that we had processed. So by the next,
we would have Social
Correct.
Security and Medicare in there, right? We did payroll.
yeah, we have to do, probably Marina needs to do some journal entries.
Right. So I'm thinking this is
I'll
just
take a look at that.
budgeted amount in there, but there's no items.
Just remember, she has
those
to do,
accounts. Yeah,
she has to do the amounts, Social Security, yeah. Social Security benefits and Medicare, and then I told her she now has to do an additional entry to break that out departmentalized, so that's what she's working on. To come
Okay.
up with a percentage that she needs to put in all the departments.
so that'll correct all that. Okay. so
Yes,
then-
it will.
Okay,
I know she's working on that because she wants it as accurate as it can be.
okay.
So those amounts will be reclassified into their respective department.
Okay, so now I'm on page 2, and I'm in the tax collector items. And we have a negative balance for equipment maintenance. So I'm kind of want to know what the hell's going on with that.
Next collector, equipment maintenance.
So we budgeted 8,800, we expended 14,400, and we have a negative 5,600, so there's an over expense here.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to take a
Is
look
that
at it.
real? We don't know. Okay, so we don't. know.
I can't tell you right now. I don't have the information, but I
Okay.
certainly will take a look at that
Okay,
and let you know what that is. It may be that because these accounts are so new, and I gave a chart of accounts to Marina that, we're just trying to get a feel for where things belong. And I might have to reclassify that particular expense, but let me take a look at it and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Sure.
so let me see my other questions on that.
Good question.
So now I'm on page 4, and I'm looking at, let's see, what is payroll service? And we budgeted $6,500. Do we pay payroll service on an annual basis, or is there a monthly amount that we pay for payroll service?
There was a quarterly bill that we received and we pay it.
Okay, because nothing's
Quarterly.
in there year to date yet, so I'm
No.
just,
They
Okay.
have not billed us yet, and it usually comes in a quarterly
okay.
bill.
So then, if you look at that line item, we budgeted 6,500, but our balance is including an extra $1.13. So
Yeah.
it's a big amount, but I don't know what.
That's one of the things I'm working on with the programmer.
Okay,
For some reason, the reports are not working the way they should be working. And he's calling me tomorrow morning, and we're gonna make sure that that's correct.
so then again, we come into that whole employee benefits thing, and I see where the year to date's in here, but not all the budget amounts are in there because we put them at the department level. So that's got to be cleaned up. Okay, I'm following this now. It's
Right.
on page 5. Let's let's see. Oh, page 7. Snow removal budget. We have overtime in there for snow removal. It's the summer. We expended year-to-date 5,159. I'm assuming that's an inaccurate post.
Okay.
Is that, so
Um,
that does not look right to me.
no. I don't know if we have a tree work overtime or not. That must be.
Right, but this was just in the snow removal account. We shouldn't have anything expended in there yet.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
that one, okay, hold on.
That is, and then I'll reclassify it where it should be.
Eyes. We have another negative balance on page 8 under the fire marshal for $60. I don't know if it's actually because we didn't put the budget amount in,
But
or if
there's no
that's
budget amount there.
right, but I don't know if that's correct or not. Do you know what I mean? So I can't tell. So there's that.
It means there, nothing has been assigned in the budget column, so let me see if I can double check and see what that is.
Diane, I can tell you what that is.
Yeah.
And that may be our issue with budgeting. Because when we added a burning official, but we didn't budget for him. And the reason we didn't budget for them is what we do is we simply pay the burning official the exact amount the town collects when we issue a burning permit. In other words, he gets paid a fee every time. So he has to go out and do the inspections, but he gets paid only what the person just directly paid the town. So, I mean, technically, we probably should have had an anticipated revenue from the burning official and then a line item for the burning official, but we didn't.
So we should account for that revenue. We should know how much we're collecting on burning.
Right, I mean, we do, we issue him, we basically pay him whenever, you know, he gives us checks from the people who are requesting burning permits.
But we need some better way so it doesn't look like an over expenditure all the time to deal with that. I don't know
Well,
what's the proper way.
When
to do
I'm setting up the revenue, you'll have a revenue side, which will show all that has been collected in that particular
it. Okay, so, all
department.
right, so let's go on to page 9. Top of page 9, there's another negative balance of $686. I have no idea why. I don't know if that's because we have the adopted budget is not correct or the expended date is wrong. So,
That's a dues and fees, so I'm not sure.
yeah, so that's gotta
Got to
be,
reclassify that as well.
on that same page, recreation. Programs, Recreation Commission, we have a budgeted amount of $5,800. And 2 expended items, $4,500 and $9,800. And the balance, that's not even a right balance for those numbers.
Correct, and that's what I told you, I'm working with the programmer on, there is a problem.
Okay,
Rob has worked with that.
all right. So when we get down to the transfer station items, these encumbered PO column items in here, is that accurate or that should not be there?
Cumber PL,
Yeah, because in other words, we have a budgeted amount, we have a year to date,
and then if you have a purchase order,
and then we're adding those back in.
if we encumber, no, actually, it's not working the way it should be.
Okay,
If
so
it was working the way it should be, this minus should be deducting it from
the
the
balance.
year-to-date total. And that
Okay.
means we have a purchase order that
Okay.
we're starting to do purchase orders now on the town, just like we do on the Board of Ed.
Right,
So we're starting to encumber things and then pay off of them. So
okay. So
That's
because
one
the
of my-
balance should be,
that is one of my areas that I'm having him take a look at.
Okay, so this is all messed up. Okay.
Mary, has that not been done in the past, the purchase order system on the town?
Not to my knowledge. I've only been here since March, but I'm told that it hasn't been. So I'm trying to
It's such a
get
good
system
tracker.
going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a system going so that we're doing,
Checks and balance, yeah.
yeah, exactly what we do on the Board of Ed side where we encumber money.
And then on page 10, under the building department, there's a wages line that we budgeted for, but there is no year-to-date payments out of that. Do we have paid no wages so far this year into the building?
Page 10.
Well,
Building department,
So the wages for the building department, the first line, that is the fee for the shared service for the building official. And again, we get billed quarterly. So we
Okay.
have not expended anything for that yet.
Okay,
okay,
thank you. That's helpful.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so these reports need a lot of work.
Yeah, I am absolutely working with the program. I can only do what the company is working on and trying to get done in a very short period of time because I am beating them up on both sides, so.
Good, because I'm just getting concerned because we have a very, very tight budget this year again. And, and we're coming into we're going to go into a quarter. And we as a Board of Finance, we have no real accurate financial reporting yet that we can kind of look at and make our decisions. So I just want to make sure that that's a priority and that we get some good numbers.
It's a definite priority, but I wanted you to have something rather than nothing. Because I want you to know that it is being set up and the chart of accounts is all in place and we're working with the software as far as the doing accounts payable. We're getting purchasing installed in a system that we can rely upon. The problem is the reporting is not what it should be, and I will make sure that it is.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Anybody else have any questions? I know I took up everybody's time. I had time to look at this today, so I looked through it all.
Okay, that's fine.
Well,
I just
you
wanted
did.
to comment that I think it's really easy to read. So I like the setup. Once it gets, accurate information that Diane, I looked at it also, just accurate information. I know you're working on it, so that's great. It's new. I like the setup of it, easy to read, having, looked at these things before. So yeah, just keep going. And thank you for presenting it so we could see what it looks like.
Thank you. On the flip side, last few months, I've been working on reconciling the town bank statement. And I can honestly say that it's reconciled through June 30th, 2021 for the first time since I've been there. So we will have, I will have you, Eric, sign the very last one in June, approval. And I will be calling the auditor tomorrow to have him come in and let him know that we've reconciled the bank statement all the way up to June. And we're ready for him to start working on the audit on both sides.
Yay.
Yeah, I think that's good news. I was excited.
Job well done, Sherry, you and your assistant.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've been working hard. It's
That's
not
for sure.
perfect, but we're getting there.
It's nice to have a process with the encumbrances, the POs. I mean, you've got to have that trail. I don't even know how auditors would work in there before if, And one quick question, because you mentioned auditor, so I hope I can comment. Last month, he presented, a nice PowerPoint presentation. Amanda was going to track it down and share it with us, just so that we'd have it.
Okay.
So if he presented and it, you know, there was no hard copy left over. So thank you. If we could get
Okay.
a copy of that.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay, so we're on to budget transfers.
I have none.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Since our financial reporting, you know, is a little in a state of flux and everything, how are we managing if there's any over expenditures and where we need to get approvals by the Board of Finance?
Well, we just got started, so I have a feeling a lot of it, where it is now, is just needs to be reclassified to the right account. So I don't believe we have any major over expenditures where we're gonna have to get approval on them at this point.
Okay,
I mean, we're into September. It's only 3 months. You know, I think we'll be fine. I'll take a look at all those accounts. I'll work with the programmer. I'll see where we're at. If there needs to be something, I'll bring it forward next time around, but I don't foresee that happening right now.
okay, perfect. All right,
Diane, can I ask her one?
go ahead, go ahead.
Just a quick thing to get that, sorry, just because it's gonna be so tight this year. And, you know, we made a promise that we were gonna, you know, when I ran, I was gonna ask questions all along and not just wait till the end. So with those items, Sherry, that were ordered in May for the school side, were they necessary to order for the running of school last year? I mean, I know they were planned spending.
Yes, they were necessary.
Okay, to be used, so they're used up,
A
whatever.
lot
this
of it, a lot of it
600,000
was curriculum,
Okay,
speaking to the curriculum.
Yep.
which is very important.
yeah, oh, I
and-
work in a school, so I do get.
Yeah,
that.
and that's why I'm telling you that,
Thank you.
so you can
Yeah.
understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So yes, it was absolutely necessary.
So, because you said there's like 600,000 outstanding that you'll be paying invoices to. So,
Well, I didn't say 600,000.
oh,
I
maybe there was
said-
that. Okay,
I said there was a sum of money that has been encumbered. It's nowhere near 600,000.
my apologies.
It's
Yeah.
probably at this point under 75,000. I'm trying very hard to pay it all down so that I have a very small encumbrance left over, which I have to book on the town side. So it's not gonna pull a lot from the bottom line, is what
Okay,
I'm
My
telling
bad.
you.
okay.
Okay.
So, and it was all necessary, of course, curriculum. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we are under old business. So you kind of gave us, do you have anything else to say about your software transition or anything like that? I mean, you said you're kind of working with them to get the report straightened out.
No, that's the only thing that I'm a little upset about is the reporting capability, but I think we'll be able to work through with the programmers on that, and I'm sure it's something that the cells of certain expenditures are not working the way they should. So I hope to have that resolved very soon. Other than that, they are very responsive to us. When we call them for help, they are there helping us every step of the way. They've been more than accommodating. So I just want to let you know that to me is a big comfort because we're not left alone in the lurch without, some support and guidance that we need right now. Once we go through this for a year, we'll know what's going on and how to do things, and should be all the bugs should be worked out of it, and we should be fine. So other than that, I think it was a smooth transition. I thought it was very easy to learn the system. I've learned other systems and it's pretty user friendly. So I'm excited about it.
Good. Okay, item 7B, audit status.
Like I
I know
said,
we
I'm
talked-
I'm
you know,
calling him tomorrow to get him in here.
I wanted to ask one question in here under audit. I'm going back to the last audit that was just completed and the corrective action items.
Mhm.
So, we had one significant deficiency identified on financial reporting. That was a repeat finding. And it was, utilizing balance sheet accounts, for recording revenue and expenditures, and they wanted us to fix that. And we said we were going to fix it with the deployment of this new accounting system.
Mhm.
Is that being done? I just want to get a status on that because the other two corrective action items have been completed and this one's outstanding. So I just want to make sure that we're going to see that fixed and it's going to be happening.
That is part of the
Okay.
fix. The other part of it is me setting up revenue accounts and expenditure accounts for those liability accounts that were put on the books and they
Right.
shouldn't be there.
Right.
So I met with him and I know exactly what accounts he's expecting us to do. And I will be doing that momentarily. I'll be working on that.
Okay, so I'm going to keep this on the agenda so we just don't lose sight of it. So we know that because I don't want it falling into next year.
Well, I have, one of the things I have to do is write a corrective action plan and submit it to the auditor so he can submit it to the state. And that will be all part of my written presentation to him of how we're going to fix these things. And with that being said, I will work on that to complete so that the audit for 2021 will include those adjustments. And that should go away. That should be fine.
I have the only outstanding corrective item is those accounts to be fixed. So we already fixed the ACH controls. We already fixed the controls over payroll.
Yeah, that's the major one. The major one is what you said. And we'll have that fixed.
Okay. That,
Now, bear in mind, since we didn't adopt this software essentially until after the last fiscal year closed, you know, I suspect we might see that audit finding again on the audit that he's starting right now. Because
I
the
know,
controls
so-
were not completed during
so
that.
it's going to be a repeat. It's going to be a third time, but I want to be able to say when he sees it the third time that we can say it's all fixed with the new system, period, and we can see it being done.
Actually, I would think that's the fourth time we've gotten. an
I
audit
mean, I
finding.
don't want to see it going beyond this fiscal year. I want it to be fixed.
Well, to be honest with you, you had to hire me before and
Yeah, I know. I mean, we have the past is the past.
got me in March, so it's been 7 months, you know. I think I'm
That's
doing,
one of the issues we had as an organization is no one ever tracked, you know, deficiencies coming out of audit reports and corrective action items to see that they were done.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna start doing that, so.
Well, that's good because my reputation is not to have any deficiency
Right,
period
right.
in an audit, and I never have. So I'm gonna
So
make sure that goes away.
that'll go away. Yippee.
Sherry, you're cleaning up a lot of stuff for sure. I
Yeah.
watched it. We all know.
Yeah,
Keep
Yeah.
it going. It's going good.
yeah. One day at a time is what I say.
Absolutely.
We already kind of got an update on the Community Senior Center Building Committee, so, because they were kind of tired, we went to, you know, we got the contract going and that. So let's go on to new business. Okay, Eric, this Ram multi-use turf field project. So is this the age-old question? Are we going to, as an organization, a town, come out for or against it, or? Is that
Well-
what the item is supposed to be?
You are the Board of Finance,
Right,
and this will be a $70,000 per year ongoing expense if it gets passed. So it's certainly in your domain to comment on this for or against as a board if you so choose. You may not choose to do that. You may choose to be silent. But if you decide as a board you're for it or against it, you probably ought to state that publicly. Since I think people would look for the Board of Finance to provide a little guidance on that.
So the
I
last
guess,
update I have on this is it definitely passed their last meeting to go to referendum. So it's officially going on the ballot. November 2nd, I think is the date.
Correct.
And so there will be a vote on this.
Yep.
Where myself personally sit on this, I just think it's a lot of money.
I would say that, you know, if you just think back to the budget cycle we just completed, if we had come to the town with a $70,000 increase, we couldn't get that passed. We all know this. We had to zero out everything to get a budget passed. So, you know, my general take, I'm not always a complete hardliner about these things, but I would find it immensely frustrating if after that, we tacked on 70K a year for how many years? What is it? You know, 5-6 years, Eric, remind me.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. 10 years. After that battle that we just had to tack on 70K a year like it was nothing. No, I personally think it's perfectly fair for this board to point out that this is a bad idea, especially in context with what we've been dealing with, you know, in our Andover budgeting. It's not okay, in my opinion, if we're shorting in comparison, you know, our own school and our own town. I mean, as Eric has said repeatedly, we're right to the bone here on the town budget. You know, I think it's a bad idea.
And we also said at the last meeting, it was kind of sneaky that it kind of came to be right after the tough budget season. You know, to pull this out, have all these meetings, you know, it was so what RAM does. You know, they don't take into consideration any timeline, anything that just happened in all of the towns. You know, again, I know we talked about it a lot last meeting and nothing's changed for me. It was really a sneaky time when we had that hard budget season to just propose this, start having meetings, end of the summer. So I'm definitely not in favor.
We don't know where the Board of Selectmen land on this yet, right? I've been to all the meetings, they've just talked about it. No one's really come out and officially said yay or nay. I mean,
they brought up some counter proposals of possibly doing, you know, digging up. And again, I don't know the technical thing. You know, I watch sports, but digging up the grass field and maybe doing another thing like that to a tune of maybe 800,000. You know, so so they asked all the right questions, but you're right. I don't know if they've publicly, I didn't get to the end of the tape on the meeting. I don't know if they publicly said yay or nay.
No.
so realistically, you know, it's going to referendum. So end of story, you know, all the discussion is off the table now with this. Our only recourse right now as a town is to write a letter and say, you know, we don't support it. That's about it. Is that something that this board wants to do?
Furthermore, I would just add, one of the first thing that we should do is highlight it. This is happening. People need to turn out and vote. You know, even if we don't take a firm position, yay or nay, although I actually am supportive on taking a nay position, even if we didn't want to go that far, you know, as Louis said, you know, they kind of are, you're in the situation where you're kind of almost sneaking this thing in. It's unlikely to be a high turnout election or referendum rather. And that's my main concern, is that you could get this thing passed with terrible voter turnout and we're stuck with it.
Right.
Yeah, judging by past referendums, you know, you might get 100 votes total in the town.
Right, which is absolutely atrocious. And this is my point. We need to, if anything, the biggest thing we could do is highlight it. I think the average Andover voter if they were activated and engaged, would look at it and probably see it more or less as we are. Not everyone, but you know, and our position on whether it's a good idea or not, you know, again, I am supportive of taking a position, but the number one thing for me is trying to get people to raise the awareness.
Right.
If,
True.
if everyone
I'm never
recalls,
afraid. Oh, go ahead.
if everyone recalls, there's a lot of history regarding this, this field project. They tried this a few years ago, and it failed, and they come right back, as Joanne mentioned, right after a very hard budget season for all three towns, to tell you the truth. Having gone through the RAM school system myself, my wife, my two sons, and eventually my grandson, it's bad time. And it's the same players that presented last time that now are charging this thing right through with the help of Superintendent Leslie. I personally think the Board of Finance should take a stand and, you know, as a group, and basically nix the whole project, because we have other things in this town to worry about besides another $70,000 tax bill to the town every year until this thing is paid up. And where does it end? That's my take on the whole thing.
Right, because then we're gonna have to replace it after the end of 10 years.
Correct. And you know, I listened to each presentation. I listened to our board of selectmen's president, you know, their presentation and discussion and everything else. And I agree with especially Scott Brisson. I mean, you can mitigate the drainage issues, and if you look at what the Hebron Public Works has done to those fields, they're pristine. The Ram fields and the town of Hebron fields and our soccer field are in pristine condition. If you can mitigate the drainage situation at that football field that they want to make into a coliseum, fine. But you know, there's nothing better than I've looked at the studies of turf fields and things like that, and athletes, especially real good athletes, are prone to injuries a lot more on a turf field than they are a grass natural field. So just my thought, and I'm voting no. So.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the board taking a firm position on this. If you guys are, I'm with you.
Absolutely. I think we should. I think I don't think if we try to, we can either write letters to the River East like we do, but I think I'm in favor too. I think we really have to just say what we said here, which makes common sense. Who usually, when we do a letter, who usually drafts that? Is there one person? Does it come from Mark as the head?
Well,
Yeah, it would more likely come from the chairman, I would think.
right, I would think so too.
I mean,
But
I was
again,
gonna-
just writing a letter isn't gonna change anything. It's still going to referendum.
Right.
So our issue
we know, but I don't mind making a stand.
is
Yeah.
getting the public aware, so people come out and vote. Even if Andover votes it no, if Marlboro doesn't come with us, even if Marlboro does come with us and say no, I don't know if we still have the votes to override Hebron. So, you know, you
Yeah,
got 3 towns.
Typically in the
It's huge in Hebron right now. They're gathering their votes for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
typically in the past, it's always been that if Andover and Marlboro mobilize sufficiently, we can block Hebron, but it always has to be, you know, both towns in agreement. Otherwise, Hebron gets what it wants.
Oh, I don't know. So here's what I'm throwing an idea out there. Instead of writing a letter to the RAM Board of Ed, which really won't do anything for us, it just put us officially on. Why couldn't we do some kind of flyer from the town to all of our town people? You know, timing it close enough to the election. Do you know what I mean? To say, are you aware? Please vote. This is important.
Right.
Blah, blah,
Great
blah.
idea.
I think if we were to send a flyer around to town, I think we'd have to be neutral on the ultimate question, but the
Right.
awareness, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this.
Why?
but-
Why do we have to be neutral if we're all against it?
So the first thing.
I
we can do-
don't have a reason to be neutral if I'm against it. So I just was wondering.
So the first thing you can do is you can put a letter directly in the River East. And it's completely appropriate for the Board of Finance to write a letter to the River East, you know, expressing their desire to not pass this, if that's what you choose. And it's also perfectly fair to post that on the town's social media site. You know, that's an opinion from the finance board of the town of Andover. So you have the right to post that, you know, if you so choose. I suppose if you really wanted to send it to every resident in the town, you could. Why not? It's just a mailing.
Okay.
I think you just have to be visible and vocal and more or less involved. I mean, truthfully, that's how I got involved in the town matters and the Board of Finance, was just being present, learning, listening, you know. So that's all I was going to say, Robert. I understand the neutral thing. I didn't mean to come on so strong. I just mean, I don't think it's such a bad idea to post some reasons why we don't think it's a good idea. But I mean, that's, and then asking who drafts it. I have no problem starting to put something together and then passing it over for everyone to look at and add opinions. I wouldn't be able to work on that till October though, but which is, you know, and then, but so that's, I just was wondering procedure.
Time, I can't remember any letter ever going out before since I've been involved. So I don't have the history that Rob has and Kurt has, you know, in this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that I can recall us taking that step, and my hesitance, you know, may not be really well founded, guys. You know, this might be me being unwilling to take my own side in an argument. I don't know why I'm squeamish about it, but that said, no, and it was for some reason the direct mail idea is the one that bothered me, and the idea of putting a thing in the River East is fine with me, and these are not really consistent positions. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, fine, let's do that. Let's start working up a draft. Let's pass it around. You know, Mark's not here tonight, but he, you know, he's going to need to look at it, right? But in general, the idea of the Board of Finance flat out saying that we think this is a bad idea for our town, I'm on board. So forget my quibbles about the process or whatever. Let's work on that. We have a little bit of time. We're going to want to get that out there in advance of the election. You said it's the referendum, which is in the first week of November. So we've got like a month basically to get this publicized.
Yeah, if I'm going to work on a draft, it will definitely be in October. I've got some big things coming up, and I'm happy to start putting it together and then sharing it with all of you. And then if it's too much, you know, and I mean, yeah, then we should do that. And then maybe, like you said, third week of October would be, you know, to start getting it in people's heads. And then the voting is at the beginning of November.
Yeah.
All right.
Personally, I feel that us just taking a stand that we're not in favor of the project and advertising that fact either through the River East or an article where every townsperson sees it. I really think that's about as far as we can really go. To draft a letter and everything else, I mean, just, you know, there's a lot of people in town, I'm sure, that are in favor. Those that have school-age kids that will be using the field and things like that. So, but I do think that just taking the stand that we do, and hopefully the Board of Selectmen do the same based on what I've heard, you know, listening to their meetings. Then the townspeople need to make up their own decision when it comes to the referendum. It is a ways off, so a lot of people will forget if we were to write something. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, we want to get that in there, you know, more or less right before the election to get people aware and involved and, you know, not have it fade.
If you want a chance of opposing it, you should start now and start doing it vocally. Without doing it you're gonna have to go big if you want a chance of preventing this from happening. That's my sense.
Okay,
I agree.
okay. So, all right, so when you say that, what are you thinking? You're thinking multiple letters? Are you thinking we put this in the River East every week? You know, that kind of thing. What are you thinking, Eric?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm thinking flying over all 3 towns with a plane towing the banner.
Layering.
You know?
Wait, what's the budget on that, buddy?
Eric's gonna donate it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you're right though, because then you're gonna get one letter out, say maybe the beginning of October, and then you're going to get the people in favor, so they're gonna start writing their letters. Yeah, so it would be interesting, and then hopefully you have people join the not in favor side, only because we want our money to go to other things, not because it's a bad thing. It's just where you're spending the money and what you're
Right.
gonna use it for, that's all.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I really, my take for what it's worth is that we hammer on the point that we could barely pass a budget this year for our own
Correct.
town.
Yeah.
Okay, you and I may have a disagreement about our budget priorities or what our budget should have been this year, but putting that completely aside, if $70,000 comes out in, for the next decade, that makes all those discussions harder. No.
Well, the other thing I think that's worth thinking about is that thinking about it in terms of the overall mission creep towards athletics. Because remember, this is also a RAM Board of Education that has decided they're not going to charge any student activity fees anymore. So they're not going to recover any of the costs from athletics for the students. And it's also a group that has fairly recently, in the last 3 years, decided we couldn't possibly run a high school without a full-blown athletic director, all while enrollment is dropping like a rock. I mean, personally, I think they're prioritizing athletics, in a very tough budgetary climate. And to me, that hurts, the core mission of a school, which is education. So I'm certainly not for it, but I mean.
Good point, Eric. They're just not, I mean, I think we all know how we feel. It's, it's just not a reasonable budget for the millions of emails and all the stuff that we talked about. It's not. So hopefully, I agree with you. I think if we have to vote or whatever we have to do, but I know we talked a lot last meeting. It's just not a good use of money right now. And you're right. Thank you for bringing up the enrollment, which is almost in half. So, I mean, how much longer, how many teams and all of that are gonna, yeah. Again, I like athletics. My kids played sports, but I wouldn't be in favor of this.
I got 2 kids that are going to be going into RAM, and I'm perfectly happy to say no to this. And my girls play sports, but this is nuts.
Let's build up our own recreation and athletic department here in Andover.
To the extent that makes sense, yeah.
Sure.
My daughter plays soccer right now. It's actually in Hebron. We use their fields. They have a wonderful set of fields over at Burnt Hill. That's great. But this is, again, we're balancing priorities here. This is what we do. Every budget cycle, we do this. We have a finite amount of funds that we can use for certain things. And if you take 70K off the top, right off the start, it's going to put pressure on everything else.
Do we want to make a formal motion to draft a letter and then see where it goes at the next meeting? And obviously, I'd like to get some input from Mark and,
That's what I was going to say. I'd like to hear from Mark too.
Yeah, so I don't know if it needs a formal motion. I don't know if it's just something to say, Get it on the agenda. for
Why
the
don't we
next-
put it on the agenda, Diane? I think that makes sense. Let's just put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Right. And Joanne, if you said you wanted to take a stab at a draft and maybe, take October to kind of before the next meeting, and maybe we can kind of have something to have talking points around.
Yeah, I just have my son's getting married in the next couple of weeks, so my focus is gonna be there, but then beginning of the month, we start drafting it and then sharing it around.
Okay.
Congratulations to your son.
Yeah, it's my oldest. It was a pandemic delayed wedding, so, the family's gonna have a wedding this year, so yay.
Yeah, I hear that. I got a
Yes,
family
yeah.
wedding coming up in October that's basically almost like a makeup because we had a wedding last year that most of the guest list had to be struck from. So I hear you.
Yeah, it's exciting times, but stressful, but happy, definitely happy. Everyone survived the pandemic and all of that. So thank you. So right after, beginning of October, I'll draft something.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so just for the record, if you wait to the next meeting, you're already too late. The next meeting is the 27th of October. The
Oh, wow.
referendum is the 2nd, so you've missed any deadlines for any publications. You've missed any possibility of doing a mailing. So if you're going to do it, you cannot wait till the next meeting. You're gonna have to make a decision and work on it, as a group between now and then. Or else, you probably just shouldn't bother.
Maybe we should talk about, maybe we should try to schedule a short special meeting early October. By the way, the 27th you said?
That's correct. Next Board of Finance meeting is October 27th.
Oof, okay, I was thinking the 20th. All right. Yeah, you're right. That's way too close.
Why don't we just take a vote tonight if somebody wants to make a motion on where we stand on this entire project,
Right,
then wing it from there.
but wait, I mean, if we're gonna approve a letter, I think, I agree with you, like, in terms of our intent, I think we're all clear on this point. But approving a letter, I think requires, I don't know, whether we need a meeting or if we can just pass it around.
I'm not a big fan of sending out a letter personally. I think I said that before when I talked. I think
No,
we just
I mean,
need to take
put
it
something in the
as a
release
stand
or-
as a board, and that will get out that the town of Andover Board of Finance basically, does not support the new Ram athletic fields, and just get that out to the voters.
But how do we get that out then?
I'm sure it'll be reported in the River East, that's for sure. So,
My thought, Kurt, was not gonna be a huge, official letter. I mean, getting our point, something to the effect, I don't wanna pound it into the ground, just because I have so much going on, I might not have it reasonable right now, but just a little letter to the editor, blah, 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 pointing out how this all came about. It's kind of unfair after a very busy, tough budget season to have this project just come up and now we're voting on it. I will make sense. I don't see what's wrong with just drafting something, showing it to all of you, not sending it without any, and then if we like it, and if we feel like it could move, putting it in the River East or whatever we're gonna do, maybe then we could throw a meeting together, like the 10th or so. I don't even have a calendar, but.
oh, then again, Mark is our chairman, and everything that we do should come through him. So I would like to get his take on
Right, I mean, we would have to come up with some kind of quick draft
right.
and then
Anyway,
get on the phone with Mark in a couple weeks and get his
that's all I
time.
wanted, yeah.
And then see where it goes from there. Does that work for people?
We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm the busiest lady on the planet, and if I'm willing to draft a letter, not on the planet, sorry. But right now I got a lot of irons in the fire and working like a ton,
Right.
so. But if you all don't want that, then that's fine. I'm willing to put in the effort even in my busy schedule, so. If I want to have a meeting in a couple of weeks, then I'll save my time for something else. if Kurt doesn't want to do that.
So
Well,
time is not on our side.
so
Does
I'm just
anybody know
looking
when
at-
Mark is back? Is he back next week? Or is he still?
Listen, I have a wedding next week, so I can't do it next week, but I'm willing to
Yeah.
be the
Next
person.
week, just for me to be able to pick up the phone and call him and give him a heads up what's going on.
That's all. I mean, that's whatever you all decide. But I mean, I would have drafted something after the wedding, show it to all of you. Of course, going to Mark, like if he doesn't like the idea, you could all tell me, forget it, he's not in. And then I save my time for other stuff. I would never disrespect the chairperson. I
Yeah.
just know how these things take time. So,
right. And so I'm just looking at the calendar. And if we are willing to circle back for a short meeting on, say, the 13th, maybe we could do that a Wednesday earlier in October, so we can get this off the ground. If between now and then, there's a conversation with Mark and Mark's not hot to trot on the idea, then maybe we nix the whole thing. But maybe we could throw something on the calendar so that we can reconvene and say, okay, we all approve or don't approve of this idea of this draft that, you know, you're proposing that you're going to write, which is awesome. And, you know, instead of waiting to the end of the month, which is too late. So, you know, I don't know that we can functionally, we can do this without getting together again, is my point.
I think that's a great idea. And that's all I like to do is have a date in mind, because when you're balancing a lot of things, as you do too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect to me. That's
You
all I
need a
meant to do.
deadline. You need a deadline.
I
So
definitely need a deadline. Yeah,
I completely understand this, which is why I'm looking at a calendar.
perfect.
So
I
could
think that
people
may be
do,
a problem, because isn't the 13th like the Board of Selectmen meeting, the Board of Ed meeting? Isn't there a bunch of meetings on that date in the town calendar already? We won't even
oh,
have.
is there, sorry, I'm looking at my phone. I'm not looking at the
Because
calendar.
of the holiday, because of Columbus Day, I think. some
Oh, okay.
Around.
13th is already the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, that's not gonna work. All right.
So the Zoom accounts are taken up.
Okay, let's, calendar.
There's nothing on the 12th, that's the Tuesday. You could probably do it on the 20th is too late.
Yeah,
You could probably do it on Wednesday, the 6th, but that
nope,
is
that's
the
too early
farmer's
for
market.
Joanne, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's too early, but I could definitely do the 12th. I think, again, we know that we're going to be up against it. It's our one shot, you know, we're going to maybe write that letter, and then you're going to see follow-up letters in the 2 weeks after that. So I'm for that. I'd be for the 12th, but it depends on
So
everyone else.
there's the 12th and the 14th, there's a meeting, building committee, but that's it at 7. So the only thing I'd throw out there is, you know, I can, if we need to do it on the 12th, I might be late. I have right now, my daughter has soccer practices on Tuesday nights, and they tend to end at 7 in Hebron. So I can try to make it. I can try to chime in advance. You guys can start without me or something like that. If it has to be the 12th is fine. I'll make it work.
14th is fine too. I mean, I don't know
Okay.
what the other members, and I hope you guys all know when I said I'll find something else with my time, I didn't mean like leave the Board of Finance. I just meant in my life, you know,
No, I knew what you
either
meant.
work or
So
family.
we want to put a tentative meeting on the calendar for October 14th at 7 p.m.
I'm good with that if everyone else is.
I'm good with that, even though I'm supposed to be in the other meeting, but you know what? Ed can run that meeting. So Ed can run that meeting without me.
And Diane, you're gonna run it by Mark, right? That we would do that.
And I will I'll try and give Mark a call next week. I'm hoping he's back.
Sure,
And,
that sounds like a plan.
all right, so let's do that. Can we put a tentative meeting on the calendar, Amanda? For the 14th at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I will put it on my to-do list. I will call Mark next week. I'm assuming he will be back in town. And if he's against it, then we'll just cancel the meeting.
Okay.
Did
All
you
right,
say at
that's-
7 PM?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Yay. Okay. 8B, the Board of Ed request letter regarding the non-lapsing account, putting their surplus in the non-lapsing. Let me kind of bring you up to date where we are. The letter that we got is kind of pretty generic. And it says, up to 2%, approximately $50,000. Where I'm sitting on this right now, and I did talk with Valerie Brunel last night as well. I would feel better from a process and transparency point of view. I have no problem personally on my thing. I'm not going to speak for the board, giving surplus into non-lab back to the school. I just want to wait until the school year budget is closed out and everything's accounted for and we have an exact dollar amount. I think we should be making this decision knowing what the exact dollar amount is and putting
Absolutely.
this to the next meeting.
I agree. I agree.
Does everybody have any different opinion on that? Pushing this off until October? There's no urgency right now. The money's not going anywhere.
Right.
That seems reasonable enough to me.
I agree.
What did Val say when you chatted with her, Diane? Did she have any issue with that?
No,
No,
good.
no, I've talked to her as well.
Yeah,
She doesn't have an issue at all.
right.
Yeah, that should be fine then.
So I will go on the record to make a motion to table this until the next meeting in October. Do I have a second for that?
The, just to clarify, the regular meeting, yeah?
Regular meeting, yep.
Second.
Any more discussion on this? No? All in favor?
Good.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Hey, unanimous. Okay. Excavator.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen again here real quick, presuming I can do this successfully. All right, so we went back to the manufacturer and clarified. So, okay, let me back up and say, at this point, both the Board of Selectmen and CIP are in agreement with the purchase of an excavator. So presuming that you all agree, the question, there's two questions to be answered. Presuming you agree. The first question is whether you want to do it as a 60-month loan, number one, or whether you want to buy it outright in the case of the excavator. And the secondary question is going to be, do you want to, the one member of the Board of Selectmen was adamant that you could take this out of Town Aid Road. And the rest didn't really have an opinion on it. So the two questions to answer are where you want the funding source for this to be and whether you want to do it as a 5-year loan or whether you want to just purchase the thing outright. So those are really the questions. So to where we are, we've been renting this thing now for about 3 months. The total cost, so the first 2 months of rental can be applied 100% to the cost to purchase a machine. The third month of rental, 75% of it can be applied to the cost. So the outright purchase cost of the machine was $96,135. There is a rental credit at this point of $11,756, which leaves a residual payment of $84,378.75. And they say we got to pay a document processing fee of $300. So the total is $84,000, and they are not offering So this is where it annoys me a little bit because they, to me, get a little scammy. This purchase cost includes a 12% additional municipal discount. If they offer 0% interest loans, but they don't give us the 12%, they don't give us the 12% municipal credit if they do, which is kind of bullshit. But the bottom line is, if we were to use their financing for a 60-month loan, interest payment would be 4.05%. Would bring the total purchase price to $93,688.80. So we would be paying a total of $9,310 in interest using their figures. So that's really the question. To me, I don't like paying interest, so I'd opt to purchase it outright, but that's not my decision. That's kind of your decision.
I don't like interest either. Here's my question for you. You mentioned earlier that the select board talked about where the money can come from. And there was some, I don't know if I could say disagreement, but, is the one select member right that this can come out of town aid road?
So if your question is, can legally we spend town aid road money to purchase a piece of equipment that's used for maintaining roads? The answer is yes.
Okay.
So it is, we are not breaking any laws to do that. And if you, just to give you both the current balances, the current balances in the town aid road account as of today is $104,145. So that's with them having paid us our August installment. For the record, you can see before that, we had drawn that account all the way down to around $10,000 doing road work this year. The problem is that if you take, 90-something thousand dollars from town aid road, that is $90,000 less you have to spend, you have available for next year's road work.
Yep.
And we use the balance from this year to fund and do a lot of spring work, because oftentimes it's cheaper to hire the contractors before the new fiscal year. So we do a lot of work in May, June, April, May, June with the contractors. So, we could take it out of town aid road, but to me, that's the whole reason why we have a public works capital equipment fund, is
Right.
to fund purchase of equipment for public works. But so the answer to your question is you could take it from that if you so chose.
Right.
Or
I
you
I see your problem with it, and I don't disagree at all. What do we have in our capital budget for equipment?
We
100,000
fund,
they put in this budget year.
I
yeah,
added 100K, but what do we have for a balance?
our total balance is $113,888,
Oof. Okay.
including the 100K we're putting in this year.
Oh, I see it now. I'm sorry. It's right at the bottom there. So if we did this, we'd have like 30,000 left. If this is 84, you said 84 and a half, something like that, you'd be at a little less 30.
Well, plus 12 for the compactor.
Oh, God. Okay. So, all right. So you're spending almost 100 here.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would almost wipe that out. We'd be down to, 14,000 or something like that, if off the top of my head.
Yeah.
15,000. Okay. Just
I
good
mean,
to
I
know.
guess theoretically, if you wanted to split the difference, you could purchase the loader or the excavator from Public Works Equipment, and you could purchase the what do you call it, the compactor from Town Aid Road, if you thought that was appropriate.
Yeah, but I mean, the capital budget exists for a reason. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning where you were leaning, which is this is why we have a capital budget.
But the price of the compactor is below the dollar threshold of what we call capital equipment. It's 15,000 and up. So it probably should come out of town aid road. versus
Oh,
equipment
okay.
fund.
I hadn't thought of it that way, Diane.
Only because I read that purchasing policy today. That's the only reason I know
It
that.
serves you right for doing that.
Too much information.
Diane, can I comment?
Yes.
And I'll ask Eric and maybe even Rob, what happened between last Thursday night or at capital improvements meeting versus tonight?
I think we're going to get to the process issue later. Would you agree, Eric?
Yeah, I think you should.
How do you figure that, Rob? This,
I was going to do that in liaison, but okay, we can bring it up now. We should bring it. You know
Yeah,
what?
go-
Let's just
go
do
ahead.
it now.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so not to throw a huge wrench in the works, everybody, but we had our CIP meeting, and it was brought up to us at that time that this whole purchase plan kind of happened outside of CIP. It was, the Board of Selectmen decided this needed to be done, and it was not run through CIP. CIP hadn't had a chance to review it. We did talk about it at our meeting, and nobody thought it was crazy or anything, but there was a little bit of frustration and concern that it had not gone through what we considered to be kind of proper channels in terms of if you have a capital improvement committee and you're going to make capital purchases, why were they not consulted? We got consulted at the absolute 11th hour. So although I don't think I've seen it yet, there was a decision made that the chairperson of the capital improvement committee would be sending an email or something along those lines to both the select board and the Board of Finance to ask for some clarity on the process here and just sort of question why this hadn't been brought before the CIP, before it was brought before everybody else to make a final decision. That said, I don't think we had an issue with the substance of the proposal. In other words, I don't think we sat down there and said that these numbers are unacceptable, that this isn't a reasonable idea. It was all about the process. And I don't think anybody at CIP was really willing to try and hold this thing up on principle. We just wanted to put it out there that going forward, I think CIP should probably be involved. Do you think that's a fair summation, Kurt? Because you were there too.
Well, I need to add the fact that this basically goes against our charter. The charter, which states what the CIP's job is, to give recommendations to the Board of Select, the Board of Finance, and it also violates the person policies that I read in regards to bids or RFPs. It's a very expensive item. There's many companies that build this unit. We've rented them, before in town for specialized work, which is what they did with this one. But I think it totally goes against the charter and what the CIP was made to do. I.e. just go back in the last purchases, a tanker truck for $414,000 that went to RFP, and the low bid was accepted on that. Anything that the fire department goes out to an RFP, and CIP requests at least 3 bids or 3 RFPs on each individual item. So this totally goes against everything, and for the Board of Selectmen to approve it without any input from the capital improvements, and also violating basically what the charter states on the amounts of different equipment costs that needs to go to bid, is just, I don't buy it. And I made that statement clear at the capital improvements meeting the other night. So I just, the letter the letter that Fred sent, I'm sure he sent it, but it went to Mark as chairman of the Board of Finance. And as you see, Mark, Mark's away, so that's why it didn't get probably, read into tonight's agenda. But that's just my thoughts again. It's basically totally usurping the entire Capital Improvements Committee and the charter. So.
Let me ask a question. Didn't we get this pricing through a government sourced kind of? Because there's a carve out for purchasing part to be sufficient to fulfill the bids and the purchasing. Did we get this price through that?
You can, I don't know if the town had gone through the ct.gov, the state of Connecticut purchasing, the purchasing consortium, basically. Sourcewell was used on our last dump trucks that the town purchased. There's HDAC is another consortium out there that a bunch of municipalities use. But you get the state bid on any piece of equipment that you're after, whether it be an excavator, a fire truck, a police cruiser, a vehicle for the building inspector if you were to buy one, things like that. The state has an actual bid list for this, and you can advertise it on the state bid list at no cost. And that gives a chance for everybody out there that supplies this type of equipment to submit their bid. And there's many, trust me, there's many people or companies that construct excavators. We happen to be using this one. It was brand new because they needed to rent it for the drainage work on Shoddy Mill, no question. But to go and purchase it and have it come through the Board of Selectmen and say, yep, you can take it out of this, take it out of that, without the board of or the Capital Improvements Committee, number one, not even knowing it, and basically going against the charter as it's written right now, it just doesn't cut it as far as I'm concerned.
So realistically, we didn't get 3 bids, public bids on this.
No.
I mean, we have turned down other people for not getting 3 bids.
So he did supply multiple bids for equipment with the packet. The one we are selecting, that is basically their state bid price is what we're paying. You're right, it did not go to RFP. I'm not going to tell you it did, because it did not. The question though is that, so let me go back and say the first thing that happened is we had a discussion with CIP in the spring about the purchase of a larger size excavator. And the CIP was not interested in even really hearing it or discussing it in the spring, which is okay, that's their right. So we rented the piece of equipment that we rented, because I sent Jay out and I said, go find out what all the other towns are using, and go try them out, see whether they'll let you try them. So that's what Jay and Tommy did. We sent Tom, because he's our normal equipment operator, out. And they tried a couple different units that other municipalities used, because the real question is can we get one small enough that we can tow it with our existing trucks without buying a new trailer, yet big enough to do most of the drainage work we need to do. So that's really why they settled on the machine they settled on, because it seems to be a fairly common unit in use by other municipalities, and it's the right size, and it's one of the few dual piston units in this size that has the oomph to do it. So they tried it with Mansfield, and then we first demoed it. We had the company drop one off, and they took it out to the pit, and they dug a bunch of holes with it, rotated it through all the operators, and said, can it do what we expect it to do? And the answer was yes. So they leased it for the summer for the drainage work. And because we didn't have approval to buy it before. So, but the problem is that, you're sucking up $4,000 a month to rent this thing to use. So, one of the things we looked at was if we were going to rent it, if we decided that was a machine we wanted, could we recoup that cost if we purchased that machine? And the answer from them was yes. If you buy it within the period that you're leasing it, we will apply most of that cost to the purchase. So that's kind of how we ended up where we are. We could certainly look at other machines at this point, and go back and do an RFP, but we're going to lose, a fairly significant, somewhere in $12,000 worth of rental that we're not going to be able to apply to the purchase. So I think that's why the Board of Selectmen was on board with it. Because if you go back and relook at it now, now you have to be looking at a machine in order to equal your cost. You got to get something that's $12,000 cheaper than this, which was unrealistic.
Eric, a quick just to clarify, at what point do we lose the ability to apply the rental money, that 12,000 or so, toward the purchase price of this particular machine?
So we originally had a 4-month rental on it, and we're in month 3. We haven't paid for month 4 yet. So we could go another month if you wanted to make a decision.
Right, but at the end of that 4th month, if we haven't agreed to purchase this machine, we sort of forfeit that discount. Is that correct?
Yes. If we send it back to them and it gets rented out to somebody else, we've lost the ability to piggyback and own it.
Okay, so that's the practical consideration. Not that anything Kurt said was wrong. I think he's right. It's just, at the same time, you're talking about the practical fact that, unless we got a really good price from somebody else, I mean, we can bid it out. How long would the bid process take?
Month.
But if we went through the consortiums that it talks about in the purchasing documents, we wouldn't have to do the public bids. We could go there and eliminate that step.
So there's 2 things. One, I apologize. The governing section in the charter is section 807. If you want, I can bring that up and you can read that.
But then it refers to this purchasing policy.
Right. Basically, the charter says that the Board of Finance needs to come up with a purchasing policy. So it really dates back to the purchasing policy. And you've got to decide whether you want to abide by your own purchasing policy or, you want to do something else. I think this does technically meet the requirements of the purchasing policy because the cost for the machine is established, through the state bid process or through the original state municipal, whatever you call that. It's not the one for the compactor is a Sourcewell quote, which we also accept, or we have in the past anyway.
So I'm going to read this section because it says the use of state of Connecticut or other government cooperative purchasing approach shall be considered sufficient to fulfill the requirements of this part. And this is the part of talking about going out to RFP. So if we get through that cooperative and get a price there, we do not have to do the formal bidding process, correct?
That is correct.
So
Per the policy you have written now.
So if what we have now meets that requirement, I'm okay with not doing all the other stuff because it's within our policy. I'm not in favor of going outside of our policy until we rewrite it, because our policy is our policy and what we have now. So I guess,
I was hoping I could just say that our town has gotten in a little bit of trouble through the years since I've been here, 15 years, for not following procedure and process.
Mhm.
So I just want to state, I appreciate Kurt coming forward with that and just talking about proper procedures and processes. Sherry's dealing with it now. Sherry's, doing, I agree to save money wherever we can, but I feel like month after month at these meetings, are we just going to justify everything that's done? And that's hard for me to stand behind too. I get saving money and needing the equipment, but if we don't, and I will not talk long on this, but the very core is, following the procedures. That's what I do in my job all day is,
Yeah.
in HR and with people and, in a school, is we have to follow the process and the procedure. Everyone wants to cut corners. And I don't always think that, okay, so we save money, so it's okay. Okay, so next month, this person did this job in 2 hours, so he didn't have to work a full day. I don't know where we cut where we stop following process and procedure.
well, I'm not advocating not following our purchasing.
Oh, no, that's just my point.
Right.
That I just wanted to back up Kurt in this, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, I get you. I was
I
trying
just
to
want
get
to
the,
make sure,
yeah,
I don't want to continue to rent a machine that we
Sure.
need to buy and waste money there. I really don't want to lose.
no,
the
that's the end. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So-
But I want to comply with the policy. So
Right.
if our quote falls into that exemption for these government consortiums, then we don't have to go to public bid and we're done.
Right.
But
And
to say,
one of the things, I think what we talked about at CIP was that this is not necessarily technically a violation of our processes, but it's a little bit of a gray area. And CIP not being involved made us kind of uncomfortable with how this all went down. But my take, and I'll repeat it, is that I think we should think about the process issues and do better next time. And at the same time, not necessarily hold up something that is ultimately a good deal for the town. That's my ultimate take on this, that we shouldn't just ignore procedure, correct? However, this one, and I think as Eric has explained, it's a little bit, technically this can work. It's just maybe not the best way we could have done it. If that's a fair summation, Eric.
Yeah, it would. And the other thing I would say is that when we started renting this, we rented this with the full realization that we might not buy it. And we might just spend $12,000 this summer, on a machine to get the work done that we needed to do. So, I mean, it's not like the town, we didn't rent the thing being certain that we were going to then use that as the purchasing decision. We rented it and then, and then brought it back to the boards to say, well, given how much drainage work we have to do, it doesn't really make financial sense to continue renting this thing every summer, because for what we're renting it, in about 5 years, we can own the thing. So we'd be smarter to buy it rather than to continue to rent it.
oh, I get and I agree that everything should go through CIP, but I'm looking for a document that says it has to go to CIP first, because this purchasing policy doesn't even say that.
Well, this is another discussion we had with Eric
Okay,
at CIP.
and the chapter says, refer to the purchasing policy.
Yeah. It's a little
So,
circular, Diane, is the issue. And, when we first drafted that purchasing, I was on the board when we drafted that thing.
okay,
That was our first cut at having any kind of purchasing policy for this town. I think we meant well, but I don't think we nailed everything down. And one thing that Eric brought up at the CIP meeting, and I'm in complete agreement with this, is that maybe we need to tighten it up and specify some procedures. Our main concern when we drafted that thing was that we weren't bidding out anything necessarily,
Right.
right? We had nothing in place that made us bid out anything. And we had a course of performance in this town of going out and just, the first selectman thought this was a good deal, and so it happened. And we don't do that anymore, thank goodness. But at the same time, that purchasing policy could probably be better and more specific about the steps and who does what. I think that's something that we talked about CIP, and I do agree that the purchasing policy could be reworked and made clearer as to exactly whose role is what. And, step 1, step 2, step 3. And I think that's something we should continue to kick around and improve upon. At the same time, we have this thing in front of us. And if we do think this is a good idea, we have about a month to pull the trigger. That's my take.
I'm in agreement with all of that. I just want to make sure that going forward, we don't see this in another purchasing thing. A good deal is a good deal, of course, but just kind of tighten it up and not see the same thing in another meeting for another piece of equipment.
We can't just ad hoc this stuff left and right. I completely agree with that.
I don't have the charter in front of me, but I think the charter states it used to be, I think, either $2,000 or $2,500 or more.
I have, because I printed it today.
Is it up to $5,000 now? $5,000? I think the Board of Finance set that amount.
So 807 says.
Correct.
Purchasing. That the Board of Finance, in consultation with the CIP and the board shall establish and maintain written procedures and policies. Blah, 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 for purchasing. So there is no
set amount?
No set amount. So.
No, it refers to the purchasing policy, which does have set amounts.
Right, and the purchasing policy
However,
says capital is $15,000 or more. Which the loader is, the excavator, I mean, is in that budget.
Correct.
But
But not violating our policy if it meets the requirements of these general requirements on page 4. That we're getting the price through a cooperative purchasing program, government cooperative purchasing program. And we don't have to do public bid. I just want to make sure we're following our policy for this decision. I know we need to clean this purchasing.
Right.
policy.
Diane, what you need to understand is that every major manufacturer of excavators, fire trucks, vehicles, pencils for the school, they meet the consortium's thing. They're all members of it. I deal with this every day in my business of selling fire apparatus. Every major manufacturer, my own included, belong to Storeswell. There's HGAC. There's 2 or 3 others out there. Everyone submits that same and follows that same purchasing procedures and pricing, whether it be the state of Connecticut or the state of Texas or the state of Maine. All 50 states in this country participate in these various consortiums for buying municipal equipment. So you're not, yes, you're buying from a company that uses Sourcewell. Well, there's probably 50 or 60 other companies that use Sourcewell and would be more than willing to submit a RFP or a bid to the town of Andover for a brand new excavator of that size. That's the only thing I'm trying to, the only point I'm trying to make is, we've done this through the last half a dozen pieces of equipment that were over $15,000 purchased next door at the fire station. And I was able to get, at least 3, general bids or RFPs on each piece of equipment. So that's, I think, is following the procedures.
But
I
our
still
But our
question that this
procedures
one is
has
not.
a carve out that you don't have to do public bids if you go through these consortiums.
But it's not a
That's what
public
I'm
bid, it's an RFP, it's a request for purchase. There's a
but
difference between an RFP and a bid.
Yeah, but there's a carve out that you don't have to do that if you go here. That's what I'm saying. I'm very confused here.
Yeah, but you can do that with any manufacturer.
So it's saying purchases made outside such shall comply with the following requirements, and then it goes through the public bid documents and what the requirements are. But if you're within those consortiums and you're buying through those, you don't have to do all that. That's how I'm reading it.
Yeah, well, I still
Yes.
feel if we go through this purchase without sending it out to everybody, we're setting a precedent, that's all. Which is
So
fine.
Diane, you are correct in that the current purchasing policy allows us to use any of the cooperative bidding services such as Sourcewell to establish the price instead of going and putting out our own RFP. Because essentially it's just like the salt bid, for CROG or any of these other organizations, it is a competitive bidding process. We're just not putting the bid out ourselves. We are putting the bid out. We are using somebody else's bid. For a cooperative buying agreement.
So here's my deal. I do not want to violate our policy. And I'm just asking for assurances because Kurt's reading this a different way, that we should be getting bids. And I'm trying to say, are we fitting within this general requirements exemption until we clean up the process better?
And if we decide later that that exemption is too broad, we can fix it.
Right. I guess what I'm saying, I'm not in favor of violating our policy
Mhm.
at all. I just want to make sure we're within it.
You are within your purchasing policy as written to buy this as
But
it is.
Kurt feels differently, so I guess I'm trying to understand how Kurt is reading it.
But Kurt just thinks we could do better. Not that what we're doing doesn't meet our actual policy, would be my guess, Kurt. You're muted, sorry.
No, they're throwing a bone that they're going to put the amount of money we've spent on rental towards the overall purchase. And that doesn't say that any other company, Caterpillar, Kubota, New Holland, there's a million different manufacturers of that same size machine. May not be spec'd exactly. I can't even pronounce the name of Eric. What's the name of this machine? Takahashi or something?
Takayuchi or something like that.
Yeah, Takayuchi. I'm not questioning that it's not a good machine. It's just the fact that you've made other boards and commissions go through the process of going through capital improvements, getting their approval first, and then moving it on to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, for their yes or no, in the procedures. We followed it next door at the fire department, and I'm not trying to say that we wouldn't follow it, but I just think it's setting a precedent when something comes along and they say, well, we'll give you what you pay for rental, but you would have rented it anyway, whether or not you're going to purchase it. Personally, I think we need more people down there at Town Hall. I mean, Public Works than we do another machine. That's just my opinion, but we had this discussion Thursday night amongst everyone that was there for the meeting, capital improvements, and it's kind of like gotten off the rails. That's all.
So I understand the position that things should go through CIP. Okay, so in this case, it didn't do that. Here we are with a decision on a price to purchase an excavator. And I'm trying to determine if it's within our purchasing policy. We're not violating a policy. And we're getting a good price because of this rental credit that we can't get. And I don't know, we can't get any, we haven't rented from anybody else, so nobody's gonna give us a rented credit. So,
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too,
I
Diana.
wanna make a good
If
decision,
this-
but be within policy.
If this squares with our policy, technically, even if we have our issues with it, we can proceed and then tighten up the process. That's where I've been coming at this all along.
I mean, Kurt, do you
And
think we
basically
can
what I
get a
said
better
is to be.
price than what?
That's not the point of a different price. You know, I'm all for saving money. Trust me, Diane, I'm not against saving money. It's just the fact that the process, the transparent process that we have in place right now was not followed. And a board of selectmen made the decision over the Board of Finance and the Capital Improvements Committee that it's okay to purchase this machine and get the discounts that we're going to get. And don't forget, just a few months ago, we held the school to task on their outdoor classroom for X amount of thousands of dollars, and basically said, you know, that never went through capital improvements or anything. And
The school is not required to go through CIP.
I understand that, but they still, they did not, I don't see it being constructed. That's my point. You know, based on the what we went through with them. So it's just basically a point of order. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just, you know, the procedures were not followed properly as they have been recently in the past. So that's all.
And I agree with that.
Can I ask Eric a question? Just if I'm gonna vote on this, how much work, and I think it was said at other meetings, how much work do we have lined up that requires this excavator?
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. You know, we've identified 10 or 12 years worth of drainage projects we need to do. Our limitation is strictly manpower and hours we can actually do because we have so many other things we're obligated to do. I mean, we didn't get a lot of drainage issues dealt with this year because, you know, we got stuck dealing with storm response. But we also need to clean out all our waterways. That would take us 2 or 3 months, and this is the obvious machine for doing that. You know, there's no question we're going to use this thing. You know, and there's no question it's a very useful piece of equipment. In the past, we have rented one when we did projects. You know, we did not rent one last summer, but most summers Public Works ends up renting a machine for at least a period of time every summer. We've just never pulled the trigger and actually purchased one ourselves before.
Yeah, that was a good answer. I mean, you've identified so much work that could be done. I mean, I know what they're used for. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just a year-long thing. I mean, clearly it can always be used or you can find use for it, but no, thank you. You've answered my question if I'm gonna have to vote ultimately. Thank you.
I don't have a question on the need. You know, there's definitely a need for the machine. And it's not Eric's fault or the Public Works Department fault that the machine sat on the side of Shelby Mill Road for 2 weeks due to the storms, the storms that we had. You know, the machine literally sat there without being used. I don't know, was it maybe 2 weeks? I'm not positive on that, but that's you can't help that because the amount of manpower we have in Public Works is 4 guys. And we've been inundated with 3 or 4 storms this past summer and, you know, spring, summer, and fall that have taken, you know, these guys elsewhere. So while it sits there and we're still paying rental on it, you know, they should credit us for that, the time that it sat there, but they're not. But they're going to take it off the price. You know, they understand all that too. So. It's just the fact that, you know, to actually purchase it for the town of Andover I think it needs to follow the bright procedures. That's all. Not during a rental. You know, we're going to rent it anyways, if we need it or not. So,
And I understand, Kurt, that you're thinking they didn't follow procedure, but when I'm reading the document, I'm seeing that we are within our procedures, even though we don't like what they are. And that somebody went outside.
well,
of CIP.
that's fine. And if I have to stand corrected, I'll stand corrected. But I just know what I've done in the past couple of 3 years. You know, through the Board of Fire Commissioners, and I know, you know, I'm comfortable in the fact that we followed the town's procedures. We fought for these procedures for a long time, and up until this new administration that we have, nothing was followed up until they came into, you know, they came into fruition. So I'll leave it at that. You know, it's up to the board. Whatever you want to do, that's fine with me.
Do we want to make a motion, or does people want to discuss this more?
I think we've discussed it enough. So, you know, someone should make a
I'm
motion.
set with discussion.
All right, so I'll stick my neck out and I will put forth a motion to approve the purchase of the excavator as priced with the rental discount, with the condition that we are not violating our purchasing procedures, because we're going in the carve-out exemption for cooperative purchasing programs. And with the added caveat that going forward, we will ensure that we're following the CIP process. And we will be looking at taking these purchasing policy and procedures and clarifying them better to make it more clear about what the expectations are. Anybody think we need to add anything else to that?
My only question is whether we need to specify where we're taking the money from. You know, are we agreed that we're taking this out of the capital equipment fund?
I think, and this is my opinion, I think the excavator should come out of capital equipment and the compactor out of Town Aid Road.
Okay, well, you know, I just think if we're doing this, we probably want to have that agreed upon as well. So if that's your motion, then let's proceed on that basis.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Any further discussion? Does anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye for me, Kurt.
I'm not an I.
You're not.
I figured that.
So we have 4 yeses and 1 no.
I'm a no.
Okay.
There.
All right. All right, motion passes.
So Amanda, can you read the motion back so we make sure we got the verbiage correct?
It's a little blurry. I'm gonna have to
Wow.
backtrack on that one.
I will try and remember what I said. Kind of hard.
It's okay, I wrote down the time of the recording.
Okay. So the second part of that would be the purchase of the plate compactor.
To come out of Town Aid Road.
Was that original motion, did that cover both those pieces of equipment? I thought the first motion was just for the excavator. Was I wrong?
I forgot. Well, I meant to include both pieces because that's what the whole thing is for, right?
And then when I asked for clarity, we were talking about where the money came from, and the clarification was that, the larger piece of equipment was coming out of our capital fund, and the smaller piece of equipment was going to come out of Town Aid Road. So I understood it to be a two-part motion covering both pieces of machinery, but if people want to split it up, we could do that.
Okay,
Is everyone, I meant to include both pieces. Even though I only said excavator, I didn't say compactor.
Oh, Diane, I think you did say compactor.
Oh, did I?
I think so.
I think you got it, but
okay.
I'm okay with it with the added stipulation of doing better in the future, whatever that wording was.
Okay, and to put us, I'm gonna make another motion to put us and keep us all honest. I would like to make a motion that the Board of Finance will be updating the purchasing policy for the town of Andover to add more clarity for the process that should be followed and the steps to be taken. I don't know if anybody wants to make a second on that.
sorry, Diane. Yeah, I think we do need to revisit our policies.
And I just want to put it on record that we are going to go and update this policy so this doesn't happen again.
Agreed with that. Second.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kurt, you and I on updating the purchasing?
Yeah, I'm an aye on that. I'm
Okay, all
also, yeah, I'm an aye.
right, so Linda, you said aye, right? Okay. I heard Joanne. Okay, so we're all good. All right, did I do everything right?
Amanda's recap of the motion seemed to only have the larger
excavator.
machine in it.
Right.
So we may need to make a second motion with respect to the smaller machine.
Okay, I'll make just to clean it up, I'll make a motion that the purchase of the compactor for the amount submitted, which was a Sourcewell bid, correct?
Correct.
It's under the 15,000.
So
What was the amount again?
So there was a Sourcewell, the Sourcewell bid for the new machine was $12,000, I think $500. But we rented basically a used machine because we needed it to compact the bridge. It's got about it had about 140 hours on it. Now it's got about 160 hours because we've been using it. That machine, they will sell to us for $9,500. We can purchase a brand new one, but given that we can purchase the rental unit with low hours on it for $9,500, we all decided saving the extra $3,000 would be smarter to do that than to purchase a new one.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Okay,
So let's
so so the motion to be amended on the compactor is to purchase the used machine for 9,500.
Correct.
For it out of Town Aid Road. Did I?
Okay, love it. Second it. Let's do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. We got to do the hard stuff in the beginning, not at the end.
So let's get that purchase policy revision thing high on the agenda, huh?
Yes.
Hold on, we haven't got to the road striping yet.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
I think you can nix the road striping unless you have questions for us about it.
Did they run out of, yeah, I do have a question. Did they run out of paint from Lakeview Drive to Route 6?
They did run out of paint. They will be back to finish.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
there was at least one extremely irate person with us for painting lines who left me a pretty astounding expletive labeled, you know, thing on my answering machine, about his displeasure at being woken up by the road work at night. But
Was it my neighbor down the street, was it?
it was too incoherent, you could hear the F-bombs, but it was hard to tell what the other words are.
Got it.
Ah, the joys of public service, Eric.
His intent was pretty clear that he was unhappy with the night work, though.
Okay.
Okay, so we did that. We have this item on here, credit card purchasing policy. I have no idea what that is.
So there's a copy of that in your packet. So we just tuned up our credit card purchasing policies a little bit and came up with a couple of new forms. We're just giving you this. I don't think the Board of Finance necessarily needs to approve this, but we just had a couple issues with the way things were being done. So we tuned up our procedures internally a little bit as a town hall. And I think Sherry could give you more info on that. But I definitely agree with it. Should
So
be in your packet.
we don't need to make any motions on it. It's just a form. It's FYI, information only.
Correct.
Okay. That's fine. I see
Moving
the-
on.
Okay. Yay. Down here. Okay, we already talked about the purchasing policy, made a motion to do that. Town hall electrical upgrades.
So I talked about that in my report. Since the Board of Selectmen has decided to increase the scope, I'm not ready to
Okay.
ask for anything on that right now.
And that's all going through CIP, right?
Yeah, he
As far
already,
as I'm concerned, that can go through CIP.
he already sent the CIP last Thursday night, so
I
we're in favor of it.
And for the record, the initial town hall electrical upgrades was already approved by CIP. Board of Finance decided that should go to RFP a while back, and I finally got around to drafting the RFP. But then the Board of Selectmen decided they wanted to take care of a bunch of other projects as part of that. So it will go back to CIP and then come back to you.
Right. We
It'll be-
basically have a
it'll be-
larger proposal to deal with now.
It'll be over 15,000, correct?
Presumably, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Still not bad, what we need to do.
All right, 8H affordable housing plan. You talked about that in your report, right? So do
Yeah,
we-
I don't think, as long as you guys have no objection to me signing for it, we don't need to discuss that further. I added that in case you decided you wanted to make a motion or you wanted input in that.
All right. Okay, now we're down to the approval of meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Wednesday, August 25th? Okay, Kurt?
Kurt's muted, but yeah, I think he said yes.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I make a motion.
okay. Any second?
Second it.
Okay, any discussion? No? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes, okay. Liaison reports. Do we
All
have?
right,
a-
so we basically dealt with CIP, that was the overwhelming bit of our CIP meeting
Right.
last Thursday was the discussion of this, buying this excavator. So, and the process
Rob's
that,
good. Rob's good.
yeah, we went through this and I think made our opinion on it plain. And I think that to be continued in that when Mark gets back, the letter that no doubt our chairperson provided him will come through. But, it was really about the process. That was that's really what we talked about at CIP, almost exclusively. We also discussed the town hall project and the mission creep that's going on there. And we didn't make, I don't think, any decisions about it. We were informed about the situation. I think that's about all we did, Kurt. You think of anything else?
No, sir.
We talked about the community center building project that we're going to contract for the site engineering, preliminary architectural drawings. So that is on its way. That's kind of where we're set at that. Next meeting, what's going to happen with the senior center community is we're going to start identifying the services we want to provide, the needs we have for those services to be able to help with the architectural drawings. And we are going to do site visits for local senior centers to see what works, what doesn't work, what other towns did, and things like that as a group, and bring that. So that's kind of where we're sitting on that.
Sounds good.
Anything else anybody wants to talk about? It was a crappy summer with the weather. Let's go on record, and it's still raining.
It was wet, that's for sure.
Oh, I tell you, the mosquitoes will carry you away now.
On the other
Not
hand,
out
the
of work.
state isn't on fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we send some of the rain to California?
I know.
yeah. I
God.
just had relatives who were evacuated. I think they got back into their house, but they have a house at Tahoe, and their house was in the danger zone. They had to evacuate for a week or two. So yeah, I think all things considered, I like living in a place where it rains.
Yeah, I was there. I was evacuated,
Oh, God.
visiting my son and his family.
Were you in the Tahoe area or another?
South Lake Tahoe.
Yep.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. Between that and the other, 10 years ago, where they had a grizzly bear knock down their door and tear apart all their stuff while they were away. Pass. I'm good with Connecticut. Thanks.
Do we have anybody that for public speak? I don't see anybody. Is everything good there? I think we're good with that.
I think we're down to who you see.
Right. As always, I want to thank everybody for all your participation. I think we all bring good things to the table and everybody has good opinions, so keep them coming. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thanks, Diane, for stepping in as usual.
Hey.
Bye.